I came all the way to Las Vegas. It was only a 45-minute flight. Let me not be dramatic. I told you one day we'd sit down together. We're making it happen. Thank you for bringing us here to Santos Boxing. How long have you had this facility? What's going on? Break it down for me.
We've been here about a year, so we're very fortunate to have found this facility, and it has a little bit of history even before me in and of itself. You know, guys like Mike Tyson have trained here, and a lot of great fighters have been here in different periods of time.
You speak of periods of time. Obviously, this is a new chapter for you that you're taking on, right? Every year, I'm sure it changes for you as you go.
Sure.
Let's jump back to the beginning. Since we're here now in the present, take me back to when you were that 20-year-old kid and getting into boxing and how you first met that sport.
Well, fortunately for me, I had a cousin, obviously, Louis Molina. It was a big influence and, you know, something that we looked up to in our family, being an Olympian, the first U.S. Marine ever to represent the Olympics in boxing. And so he was an inspiration to me and my family, and so looking up to him. But again, I liked all sports. Like we had done the thing with Jim Plunkett and looked up to a lot of guys like that from San Jose. And fortunately for me, I took the direction with boxing, going into Garden City Boxing, and they said, hey, why don't you get into coaching? And I says, well, let's give it a go. So I started out as assistant and kind of worked my way up the ladder through there.
So prior to that, was there any want to get into that sport? Because again, you talk about being from the Bay and Jim Plunkett, obviously the Raiders.
Yeah.
That's football. Did you play football? Were there other sports that you wanted to get into, or boxing just made sense?
Well, you know, I did all the sports. My father had us in everything: baseball, you know, basketball, football. All my brothers, we played all the sports, and it just kind of worked its way through there. It's something that really fascinated me about the sport of boxing. And you know, when I was growing up as a kid in our elementary school, we even had, back then, people forget this, there used to be boxing teams in the elementary schools.
That's right.
So, you know, that kind of changed, obviously, but so it was something that was always, you know, prime time, ABC, Wide World of Sports, you know, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard. Back then you only had 4 TV networks, and so it always captivated the mind to see those guys on national TV, and so one thing led to another.
So when you think boxing, it's like you've got the cut man, the trainer, there's the behind the scenes, there's management, and then you're the fighter. You're out there. And what drew you to, what was so exciting about the opposite side, not getting into the ring, but handling as the cut man and managing and training? Well,
you know, I was a lead sparring partner for Carlos Cruzat, who ended up being a cruiserweight champion of the world, and so I did a little bit of that, and I figured, you know, that might not be the best way for me to go, you know, because I said, maybe you got to get into coaching. You know, you're a good athlete, but that's probably not for you. And you can see my nose a little bit crooked there from some of the sparring sessions. So the best way to go for me was in coaching, for sure.
Did you think you'd be at this point right now, having Santos Boxing, knowing the names of people that you've worked with? Some of the most elite athletes in the world. I mean, did you think that it would get to this point?
No, definitely not. You know, you always give your best. My father and my mother always instilled in us as kids, you know, to give your best, put the most amount of effort that you possibly can. But the reality of it is, I don't think anybody's that good. It's better to be blessed than good, and you have to have the right opportunities at the right time. There's probably a lot of guys a lot better than me doing this, but fortunately for me, things came out in the right direction, and one thing led to another. So I definitely never thought I would be at this point, but through the grace of the good Lord, here I am.
God knew. God knew. 408, San Jose, growing up there, do you think that had a lot to do with your perseverance?
Yeah, definitely. You know, again, we did the segment together with Jim Plunkett, and I revert back to that a lot, because when we were growing up as kids, we had to pick in the fields, and obviously at different times, I picked in the same fields that he picked in, and so I think work ethic was instilled in us in a young age, because people forget the Bay Area back then wasn't Silicon Valley. It wasn't the technological capital of the world. Back then, it was, you know, agriculture.
Right.
And you had to have a good work ethic your parents instilled in you, because that was just a way of life.
Now, you know, Bob, you look like you're 28, 30 years old. Talk to me about this that younger generations may not know. Again, prior to Silicon Valley, I grew up in the Bay, Fremont, but even I don't know about, like you said, you and Jim out there. Oops. It's a working environment, people. If you could go back to that, you said you were in the field, you, Jim, and if anyone's wondering what we're talking about, again, being a Raider fan, me working for the Raiders at that time, I was able to set up the interview for you guys. And so, huge. Yeah, you got to finally share those stories of growing up out there and just your love for the team. But talk to me about that as a kid, what you were doing out there, knowing the agriculture, that's what it was.
Well, you know, when we were kids, obviously you went to school in September and you got out in June. And the reason you got out in June back then was because during the summer months, that was the time you picked the fruit or the agriculture. And that was predominantly what the school year was based on. A lot of people don't know that. And so that's the kind of things that you had to do back then to support your family and, you know, make a living.
Wow, and how old were you at the time when you first?
My mom used to take us at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning when we were probably 5 years old to go to work, and we'd have potato burritos, bean burritos, so it wasn't a lot of chicken burritos or carne asada back then, I can say that, you know, or egg burritos.
Yeah. That definitely had to
chorizo.
Oh, chorizo. You had all the
chorizo, egg, beans, and potatoes.
Can you still make a mean breakfast burrito?
My mom can.
Okay, Mommy
that wasn't
can.
very good.
So from growing up like that, and again, thank you for sharing that, because even I don't know that history of the Bay Area as much. I'm sure my dad's going to be upset hearing that because he's a horticulturalist, so he knows these stories. But from that to getting into boxing, realizing I'm not going to be the fighter, I'll be the cut man, I'll be the manager, I'll be the trainer. What was that like in the very beginning? Do you remember that first moment that you were doing it? Like, let's talk cut man for a second. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a big deal to go into that. I imagine your very first fighter is kind of scary, right?
Well, you know, I was fortunate to work with Chuck Bodak, who was a coach with Tony Zeo. He worked, with Muhammad Ali when he was Cassius Clay in the amateurs. Rocky Marciano, Roberto Duran. Yeah, for those that don't know, you remember the guy with the pictures on the thing. He used to get mad because if you'd say, "Hey, you know, Chuck Bodak, the cut man," he'd be like, "Hey, I was a coach. Now I'm 90-something years old. I can only do the cuts now. I can't, you know." But so I learned from him, and he was one of the best in the business. And I'm glad that I did that, because another thing my parents instilled in me, there's no job that's too great and a job that's too small. And for me, that's the best way to go, because it's just like a foundation on a house. If you don't do the foundation right, the rest isn't going to come to fruition. It's going to fall apart. This isn't a sink. That's going to happen. So when you learn everything and you know all the ins and outs, that's the best way to know a sport. You know, learning it from this, being a cut man, being an assistant, being this. And so when the time comes, then you're prepared to meet the moment.
There is a beautiful art to that. Did you find your own pathway? I know you obviously worked with the best of the best, but in your own way, when you started doing it on your own, did it become like a form of, this is a beautiful dance for me, of doing this with the fighter and getting to know them? Sure.
You know, I got a lot of experience with Hall of Famers. Joe Goose and I worked under him for a period of time. And, I was fortunate enough to work with Emmanuel Stewart, with Jose Celaya and guys like that, to learn from, the icons of the sport.
Right.
And so one thing leads to another, and then like you said, then you kind of find your own groove. Not saying that you're better than them, but you pick a little bit from this guy, you pick a little bit from that guy, and then you craft your own form of the way you do things as a head coach.
Is there any moments in the history that you've been doing this, even up until now, where it kind of sits with you still?
You reflect back to the moment sometimes. You think, man, the pinnacle, Floyd Mayweather, one of the greatest athletes to me in all of sports, and if not the greatest fighter ever. I mean, obviously that's debatable, but he's definitely in the argument. His name's definitely in there. So to be a part of atmospheres like that, to compete against at that level, to get to that level, a kid from San Jose picking in the fields, I never would have ever imagined that we would have ascended to those heights.
It's a lot. It makes you smile because you're just thinking back on all the things. When you're training with a boxer, whether you've known them or what they've done in the ring previous to being with you, How do you set that tone? How do you lead in this? Is the boxer leading the way? How does that work when you're training with them?
You know, I think there's no cookie cutter for everybody's different, right? And you know this, you've been around sports a long time, and you covered professional prize fighters, and you covered professional football players, and there's no cookie cutter. Everybody's different, personalities are different, and so you got to know when you have to push or pull. And some guys are, they're gung-ho, hey, maybe you better take a little step back here, bud. And other guys where, sometimes you got to kick them in the butt. And that's where you have to use your experience to know when to push or when to pull. And you can only get that, like I always say, you can't buy experience. You can only get that by doing it time and time again with different athletes.
Jump back to Floyd for a second. What do you think makes him the greatest athlete?
Work ethic. Being around him, you don't see too many athletes work as hard as he does. His confidence comes from his work ethic. Sure, he's a God-gifted, talented human being, but that being said, along with that, I don't think too many people outwork him. He's probably the hardest working guy that I've ever been around.
I think that's the misconception about him too, right? Is like they just see him out and they think he's just this confident and it comes easy to him, but he's literally working in the lab.
No, but nobody's outworking him.
Right.
Second to none work ethic. I mean, look at the shape that he's in to this day. And sometimes, you go out there to Mount Charleston. I have some of my fighters run. I said, well, guess who's out there running right now? That's Floyd Mayweather, who's not even competing anymore.
Yeah.
Close to 50 years old. So what's the excuse for us not getting it done to what we need to get done?
Right.
So that speaks values. I think Floyd is, he's addicted to the grind.
Yeah, he needs it.
Yeah, he's addicted to the grind.
Do you think we'll see someone like him again in this sport?
Definitely, not exactly him, but I'm sure somebody's going to ascend to the top. There always is, guys, I use a lot of football or different analogies because to me, all sports are relative to a degree.
Right.
So you look at a guy like, you say, oh, well, there's never going to be another Joe Montana, and then comes Tom Brady.
Yeah, someone else.
And so at different points, obviously, different times, different eras, but somebody's going to ascend. Mm-hmm. It's the nature of life, and somebody's going to ascend to the top, and we'll see somebody, not him exactly, but we'll see somebody do some incredible things, just like Jordan, LeBron, the arguments there. I'm the Jordan guy, I guess, but even though I'm a Lakers fan.
But we love Mamba. We will always, forever.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I always give credit where credit is due. Jordan to me is the epitome. Yeah. But I'm sure somebody at some point will come along and do things that we've never seen done before.
I wanted to tell you a quote. I was watching Andre Ward's show, and he had Antonio Tarver on, and he mentioned that Floyd was the coldest hustler he'd ever seen in sports. Nobody's done it like him. Mm-hmm. Is that true to you too, that sentence?
Well, he's brilliant in this aspect. You remember when he first came into the sport, he was Pretty Boy Floyd. Yes. and he was having explosive performances, knockouts, because he was in the lighter weight classes, the classes that, is really his size. Yeah. Because he's not a huge guy. So what he did to compete at 47 and go against Canelo, who's a 54-pounder, is pretty impressive. But I think he realized, hey, I'm not getting the traction that I probably should be getting for the performances that he was having. Right. And then he went to Money Mayweather. Yes. Right? Money team. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to fight. You can market yourself, but the best PR is winning fights. Right. So although he was great at marketing himself, Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather, the bottom line is he's a great fighter. He's a great fighter. And he put the work in. Yeah. And he ascended to the top. So I guess that goes hand in hand. I have to ask about Manny Pacquiao and Floyd getting in the ring. It was supposed to be a Netflix fight coming up in September. It's postponed as for now. Who you got in that fight? I just recently had a fighter for the world title go against Manny Pacquiao. So I know Manny very well because he used to be a sparring partner with Robert Guerrero. And what he was able to do at his age with those little 8-ounce gloves against a guy 20 years younger, Floyd, that might go if you might want to think twice about doing it at this point. because when the reflexes ain't the same, you know, that could be tough hoeing.
Wow. Okay, and you would have the best insight, and you're talking about your fighter, Mario Barrios.
Yeah.
He was great. I mean, it was a draw.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Well, you know, it was a competitive, close fight.
Yes.
And a lot of times, unless you really dominate rounds, boxing is subjective. We all understand that. So
Yes.
what do you like versus what do you like more? It was a good outcome to the fight. I thought Manny kind of controlled the early part of the fight, and I thought we controlled the latter part of the fight. They had a draw. We have to respect what the judges did, but for him to even keep it in that realm, 5 years off against a guy 20-something years younger who's a two-time world champ, ultimately almost in his prime. I mean, hats off to him. I was stunned after the fight.
That's what my follow-up was.
I think people could tell I was stunned. I thought we would have been able to stop him inside of 8 rounds.
Yeah. Wow. And how old is he now?
Pacquiao or Barrios?
Pacquiao.
Oh, he's got to be close to 50, right? He's got to be in his late 40s for sure.
We're going to fact check this, but he is.
He's got to be because Guerrero's about 43, and we used to do a lot of sparring sessions with him, and I know he's a couple years older than Guerrero.
Again, you've been around the top athletes in your sport here. Do you enjoy, I mean, what is the one thing that you enjoy the most about this? Being
around the younger guys, the energy of the guys, seeing, you know, again, like I always say, I'm a huge fan of sports in and of itself. And one of the things I love about like college football or college basketball, there's nothing like seeing that freshman come onto the campus, you know, a Michael Jordan when he first came to North Carolina, or a Bo Jackson. And you see these guys, wow, you know, these Herschel Walkers and these great guys as they're coming in as freshmen. So it's like, wow. And that's what I like too about this guy. Was just a young Olympian. He's coming in from Argentina. You know, he was just in the 2024 games, and seeing these young guys and what may hold for their careers. Yeah. And so that's what excites me about the young guys for sure. Take me back to that night.
Mario, Manny in that ring, obviously a draw. We know that. You said respect the judges. Manny is Manny Pacquiao, right? He's built this whole legacy as one of the top fighters out there. And Mario is building his way up there as well. I love what he does when his walkouts. He's true to his roots. Yeah. He's a solid fighter. Watched him recently in Vegas as well after that fight. What was it like to see those two go at it in the ring?
Well, you know, in some aspects, Mario came to train with me before he had ever turned pro at 17, 18 years old. He came out to San Jose and he started training with me during that time. So to see this kid from San Antonio that not a lot of people believed in to become a two-time world champion, now you're in the ring with, you know, arguably one of the greats ever too, in Manny Pacquiao. Yeah. And I think Manny Pacquiao is one of the guys, I don't think his record might not ever be broken to win a championship at the weight class he did, and then to go to the weight classes he did. Maybe it's possible, but probably not in my lifetime. Right. So it was surreal to see that fight. But that being said, we still had a job to do. I thought Mario, in my mind's eye, was going to stop him within 8 rounds. For whatever reason, it didn't turn out that way. And then we were in a position where I told him, I said, son, we need the 10th, 11th, and 12th round, and you're not walking out of here with your title. And he closed the show, and, you know, fortunately for us, we got the draw. Obviously, it would have been nice to get the win, but he did retain the title against Manny Pacquiao, and that's a feather in and of itself in his cap to say, hey, I fought Manny Pacquiao, I retained my world championship against him, and then we moved on to the Ryan Garcia fight from there.
Yes, I was in attendance. I was in the house for that one. Just knowing what Mario was able to do in that ring against, again, someone like Manny, was it special for you to watch? And then also saying, if you don't get in that 11th, 12th, were you nervous at all? Or is it not nerves? It's just like, no, hey, you need to get this done.
No, at that point, it's like, we need to get this done, because the way I was reading the fight, if we don't get this 10th, 11th, and 12th round, we're not going to retain the title. And I, you know, it's easy for me to say things, but you never know what's going through a fighter's mind. He knows he's going against an icon. You have the pressure of the crowd. It's a different type of environment than you probably have in even a lot of your title fights, because you're going against an icon. And Manny had the crowd behind him. He had the energy of the crowd. It definitely, you got 20,000 people all going for him. It's easy for me to say, hey, do this, do that, but he has to handle the pressure of the moment at that time. And only he can say what he was going through in those moments.
I'm sure he looked up to Manny as well, right?
Of course.
After he retained his title, what was the conversation between you two? Like, what was his first thing that he said? I know.
Obviously you want the win. I think he wanted the win.
Yes.
I think he thought he did enough to get the win. The judges, again, they seen it the way they seen it. And but it was a surreal moment for sure.
Yeah. Again, knowing what boxing has been through, what we've seen with, I'll just drop some stuff with Zuffa recently, MVP, who I've worked with, and that's why I've met you and so many amazing people in this sport. What do you think about the state of boxing right now and where it's going?
I think the state of boxing is probably in one of the best positions that it's ever been in, and from this standpoint, what we had talked about earlier, when I was growing up as a kid, you had, 4 networks. You had ABC, CBS, NBC, and then you had your local affiliate.
Right.
And so boxing was on those premier networks and everybody could see it. And, my take on it is that when the media started controlling everything, and there was a stigma of, Howard Cosell, I'm not going to cover this no more, it's too brutal of a sport. It hit a lull, and you had a lot of newspaper reporters at that time that were controlling print media and walking away from boxing. And I think it's really getting a revival because of social media, because now they can't just pigeonhole something for what they like.
Right.
Or what's in their interest. Maybe they don't like the sport, they have a stigma of it, they don't understand how many lives that it's changed. And a lot of times people ask me, they'll say this, maybe this is not the most politically correct thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's such a brutal sport, it's this, it's that. And I say, hey, at the end of the day, remember something. Somebody chooses to be an electrician. Somebody's going to die on that job site. Somebody chooses to be a roofer and they're going to fall off the roof. This is what these people choose to do. It's what their passion is. I've seen this sport change a lot of lives. Not everybody's going to ascend to become a world champion, an Olympian, a multimillionaire. I get it. But even in the amateur program that I had my kids fight in, or that I did, I think the discipline of itself can change a lot of people's lives for a lot of little boys, a lot of little girls out there that they can channel channel their energy into something and stay out of trouble. And like I said, not everybody's going to ascend to be a great champion or just self-defense or just confidence within themselves. And I think a lot of people were kind of, putting their nose at boxing. People forget in the 60s, boxing used to have scholarships. And so I think that's where a lot of people, that's where I think social media has now changed it. So I think it's in a great spot now. You have many more avenues. Like you said, you got Zuffa, you got MVP, you got Jake Paul, you got YouTube, you got Netflix, you got all these different things. You got Amazon Prime, you got The Zone. I think it's in a great spot.
And you bring up a good point. I didn't think about it either. It's those people who don't really know what goes into this and how it does save lives. And I think that's what's changed my perspective on this sport as well, to understand that you don't just choose fighting all the time. Like a lot of times fighting chooses you. It's something, like you said, you want to get out. Like you need to let things out. And also I've seen fighters where, they're the prospects, right? They're coming up. Like it's totally different than what you see on these glossy fights. They're trying to do something to prove their life, or they're trying to get out of a bad situation at home or different things. I think people don't see that, and now we're kind of shining a light on that.
Yeah, of course.
With
Like I said,
media.
it's a different avenue that you have now that can channel these kids in the right direction. Not everybody's going to be a world champion.
Right.
And the other thing that's unfortunate is too, unfortunately, in life, people always want to focus on the negative. Well, this guy, he did this and he went broke. And this guy, he did this and he did that. But what about guys like Ray Marconi who became one of the biggest vitamin product distributors in the nation. And again, Chuck Bodak that we had talked about, who's from Chicago, well, not Chicago, but Gary, Indiana, did a lot of fights in Chicago. And he worked with guys like that in the CYOs, in the amateurs with guys like Cassius Clay, who later became Muhammad Ali, and mentoring guys like that who ended up staying out of trouble, staying out of juvenile hall. And those success stories, you don't even hear about that.
Right.
That led him to what he was, and he became a big-time CEO. Or you think about Ronald Reagan, the head of his campaign, Ed Rollins, right? He was a boxer, and was I think one of the coaches either at I want to say San Jose State, or it might have been I can't remember exactly what's the university down there. The big party, Chico.
Oh, Lord.
Chico State. I think he did the boxing down there, but
Yes.
you know what I mean? Or Bill Walsh, who was the boxing coach at San Jose State.
Yeah.
And how he used to use boxing analogies all the time with the 49ers and make them watch fights
Right. No,
before some of the games.
Boxing sets a tone. Like I said, it's discipline. It's so much more than what you see people going in there doing. Like you said, that's why the greats are the greats, because they have that discipline and they respect the sport and they love it so deeply. It's life-changing.
Yeah, 100%.
Scary. Can be.
Oh yeah, you got to say it's a very, very serious sport.
It's
You play
serious.
football, you play basketball, you play baseball. You don't play boxing. It definitely is very dangerous. But that's why you have to prepare yourself to the best that you can be, and the greats ascend to the top, and other people that don't, that's fine. You know, you learn to discipline, stayed in shape, and kept you out of trouble.
Was there a moment ever that you second-guessed yourself or thought, maybe this isn't where I should be right now?
Of course, you have a lot of times like that in your life. You know, if you've never been in the valleys, you'll never know the mountaintops. And there's a lot of valleys, but I always try to tell the young guys, don't get on the roller coaster. Don't let the highs get too high, the lows too low. But that being said, we're all human. There's some real disappointing times. One of the biggest disappointments for me was Robert Guerrero when he lost to Floyd Mayweather. Not so much that, hey, we lost to a great fighter who was the better fighter, and you can live with that. But when you're on a journey with somebody since they're 15 years old, and you go 15 or 17 years to get to the pinnacle, to get to that point, and it doesn't go your way, that's a hard pill to swallow. But you learn that it comes with the territory. And then in retrospect, one of the great things that I learned was too, you know, Floyd won them all, but a lot of times you can't win them all. But just to get to that pinnacle with Floyd, and you know, you look at Floyd and you see how he's living his life and his brat. You know what I always say when I see the Mayweathers? Thank God for the Mayweathers, because they changed my life.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Do you want to pick up that line one more time? The thank God for the, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the truth.
Do you want to say, repeat what you said? What was
Okay.
it? Thank God for, I always say thank God for the Mayweathers.
I always say thank God for the Mayweathers, and that being said is because that fight in and of itself changed my life, changed Robert Guerrero's life, it changed my kids' life, my whole family's life. I was able to put my kids through private school. That's what I'm saying. So boxing can change lives and give them opportunities that I wasn't afforded. And every time I see Floyd or I see Floyd Sr., I always say, thank God for the Mayweathers, you know, and a big hug. Because now you really realize, man, thank God he did go undefeated. Because I was one of those guys that was like, man, I want to see this guy beat this guy. I want to see somebody give this guy, you know, right? And so I was one of those guys that I want to tune in to see this guy get beat.
Right.
And then you realize, man, thank God he didn't get beat, because the stakes just kept getting higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
And then when we got our opportunity, it's a huge event. Thank God he did what he did. And how many lives he changed and opportunities just to fight him.
Right.
And people don't look at that. And not just the fighter, you're changing the manager's life. You're changing the trainer's life.
It's a trickle down. It's,
even the cut man gets a great payday to take care of his family. And so if Floyd didn't do what he did, there's a lot of families that he took care of. Same thing with Muhammad Ali and the opportunities that he gave. And so you think back and, man, just again, thank God for the Mayweathers.
I feel like with your facility here and everything that you've been doing and the mentorships and just being in the corner for those fighters that you've worked with, they're saying thank God for Bob Santos. Do you realize that?
Yeah, I do, because I remember there was times when Robert Guerrero, we'd go to camp, and I said, well, Robert, we're heading to camp, and we got 2 problems. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I go, we're going to camp, me and you. We already got 2 problems going into the camp. And if we bring another person, there's going to be a 3rd problem. And there's going to be times where you probably really can't stand me. But to me, and he goes, oh no, you're like family to me. And no, there's going to be times in camp I'm going to push you where you can't stand me. But I would rather do everything I can, no stone unturned, for my fighter to be successful. Because at the end of the day, I want you to give everything you have. And when it's all said and done, you can look back and say, you know what, thank God he did what he did. And then when Robert, you know, he got that ranch in Texas, and he got that ranch in California, and he got that nice place, you know, training camp here in Las Vegas, and changed his life. Now he goes, I realize exactly why you did what you did.
See, special.
Yeah, no 2 ways about it, because a lot of lives have been changed through the sport of boxing, for sure.
If you're looking at boxing as a whole in the last, I don't know, 5-10 years, who are some names right now in any weight class that you feel are those elite ones that everyone just needs to keep an eye on? And some matchups that you would like to see?
Well, I mean, you know, from a stylistic standpoint, of course, you got to like guys like Terrence Crawford, just a phenomenal fighter. You got to love what Canelo has done, because every time his number's called, he meets the moment. And that's the reason the name of my gym is Home of Prize Fighters. And a lot of guys got to understand it. It's great to become a world champion, and I'm not dismissing that. That's fantastic. But are you a prize fighter? Are you willing to take it to the next level and give of yourself, that you're ready to meet the moment every Cinco de Mayo? You know, every Mexican Independence Day, are you ready when your number's called? And so you got to take your hat off to a guy like that who doesn't need the money. He's making millions of dollars, and yet he's still ready when the number's called. David Benavidez, to me, just, you know, I had a chance to be with him at a time and do a camp with him, and just a phenomenal fighter. And I don't think people get to see how great he is, because I would pay to watch him spar. He's done things in sparring sessions that I'm just like, this is just unbelievable what I'm witnessing. He's like a savant. So guys like him, Benavidez, wow.
Insane.
Great fighter.
I talked to Shakur Stevenson a couple weeks ago. He just a new signing as well to Zuffa. Thoughts on him, where he's at right now? I really like his mindset.
You know what's interesting is, I was probably one of his hardest critics, right? Because stylistically, I like that Benavidez, the Mexican monster. I like, you know, and Shakur is more of a tactician, you know, hit, don't get hit. And I'm kind of old school. I guess I'm from those Chuck Bodak days, you know what I mean? Rocky Marciano and so forth, downhill. But my hat's off to him, because I was his hardest critic, and I would say, man, you know, I'm not so sure I would pay to watch that guy fight. Then came the Cepeda fight. I'm there ringside. I had David Morrell, who's my fighter, and I watched the Cepeda fight. And I was the first one to go up to him, and I give credit where credit is due. I said, what an unbelievable performance. You stood there, you showed what a great fighter truly is. And my hat's off to him. It was an electrifying performance, and he stood in the pocket. He gave the fans everything that they wanted to see. So my hat's off to you, Shakur. You know, credit to where credit is due.
I like that. See, you're not biased. You're like, listen.
That's just for me.
I did judge you for a second, however.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's what makes sports great, right? Because if we all agreed and loved the same quarterback, or the same running back, or the same fighter, or the same style, what good would that be?
Boring.
Yeah, exactly. And we all got our caveats of what we like and what we dislike, and that's what makes life great.
I'll give 2 more names I want to hear about. Let's talk Ryan Garcia.
Sure.
Interesting career so far. He's had a lot going on. But it sounds like, it seems like he's kind of finding his way, right?
You know what's interesting about him? I think his career's a lot like his personality, right? There's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs, not too much in between. So which guy are you going to get? I think he's a guy that when his energy's going and he's rallying around, he's electric and he's great. But then there's those lulls with him where you're kind of like, you look at the Rolly fight and you're like, what am I seeing here? And I think a lot of that is attributed to his personality. But I'll say this, when he's going and he's in the groove and he's in the right mindset, he's a great fighter and he's great for the sport of boxing for sure. And he's electric to watch. When he was in those lulls, it's just like,
right.
You know?
Yeah.
And the great Shelly Finkel was one of the great managers in boxing. Mike Tyson, he managed Mike Tyson, Pernell Whitaker, and I worked with Shelly for a long time. I remember I learned a valuable lesson from him, and he told me, he says, Bob, I said, boy, that wasn't him tonight. You know what I mean? When he lost the fight, and he goes, oh, but it was. You know, it's the good and the bad. It's both, oh, but it was. I said, wow, okay, Shelly.
Got a lot of personalities.
Yeah. But it was.
We don't know who we're going to get that match. Okay, I lied. 2 more names.
Okay.
Devin Haney. Conor Benn,
I got Devin Haney. I like Conor Benn. I like what he's done for the sport. I like his tenacity. I like what he brings to the table. He's not a guy that runs around the ring, so I'm a big fan of watching guys like that are willing to exchange and go out on their shield. Like the late, great Chico Corrales that I had a chance to be around in camp, was a great fighter. So like I said, I'm old school in that way, and so my hat's off to him. But stylistically, I think Devin, he's problematic for anybody. He's a very tough fight.
He's great, and the camp builds a lot of press.
And he's just stylistic. He's a tough fight. Guys that are defensive-minded fighters, they're tough to deal with.
Yeah.
You know,
he's in Vegas, right?
Yeah, you know, matter of fact, his father was out here not that long ago with his brother Sean training here at our gym. So
nice.
That might have been, I don't know, maybe about a month ago.
So with all of this said, and knowing what you're building here, bringing in fighters and you know, continuing to mentor and still getting in that ring with fighters that you're working with, which I want to talk to you about too. Is there an end goal? Do you have an end goal in mind? Do you see a retirement for Bob? Do you see yourself just relaxing, or can you not get away from the sport?
You know, I talked to Joe Goosen a lot, and I used to talk to Chuck Bodak, who was, his last world champion was with me with Robert Guerrero, and he was in his 90s. And I always say, you know, I'd like to retire on a ranch back in California. And every time I think to myself, I'll probably get away at some point, and they all look at me, even Joe Goosen, he was a mentor of mine to this day, and he says, Bob, you're gonna die in this sport. And he always says, for him, he goes, to me, I think a great thing for me would be to die in the gym. I says, Joe, don't say that. But he goes, that's what we are, we're lifers. And once it gets in your blood, I think I'm gonna go till the wheels fall off.
Why not? Keep going, because again, what did I say? You're 28, 29 years old? You got it. There's so much more to do. I know I will be there August 8th. You got a fight coming up. I just saw him. Pero is here.
Yeah.
What's it been like working with him? He's also an Olympian.
Sure. 2020?
Yeah. 2020
The youngest in Cuban history is an Olympic heavyweight.
Knowing what he's already accomplished, I've seen him in that ring. I've interviewed him. I've talked to his family. How special is he?
Well, he's one of the few fighters that signed with Turkey, right, as a ring ambassador. So I think that speaks volume in of itself.
Thoughts when Turkey, the name started to be mentioned in boxing, and now what he's done for it. I feel like he is such a fan of the sport first, before anything, before the business, before all that. Yeah,
he's made a lot of fights that I never thought possible that we were going to see happen. You never thought you'd see Terrence Crawford versus Canelo. He's put on some amazing cards. He's been great for the sport of boxing, and he's changed a lot of lives, giving these guys opportunities that they probably otherwise wouldn't have had. And financially, he's put his money where his mouth is with the people in and around him.
Are there any other fighters that you're looking at, prospects coming up, that you want to take on, that you want to work with? Are you...
Well, I got a lot of guys right now in my stable. I got Sugar Martinez, 140-pounder from the Dominican Republic, 18-0, 17 knockouts. I got Juan Carlos Carrillo is going to be in a big fight coming up on Pro Box against Naji Lopez. The winner will be fighting for the 175-pound world champion, another Colombian Olympian, and obviously Denir Perot, Sebastian Juarez, who's going to be with you on the 8th too on that ESPN card. So we got a lot of talented guys in and around the gym for sure.
You're busy.
Thank the Lord.
Do you sleep?
Yeah, get a good night's sleep.
You better.
Yeah.
You have to. The name you mentioned a lot, which I think his career, obviously phenomenal, and now what he's doing in the broadcasting side, I know he's dipping his feet in that, Terrence Crawford. I mean, what a way to step out and be like, hey, he did it on his own terms.
Yeah.
When you see someone like that, that's also pretty special. And again, he's not someone running his mouth, or he's showing you who he is from the moment he steps into that ring, and he's just been great to watch.
Well, you know, to me, he's like a blue-collar guy, right? Floyd Mayweather is that kind of Don Perignon, creme de la creme. Doesn't mean that, you know, that Marvin Hagler type guy. He did it the hard way, not an easy road. Top Rank did a great job with him. You can't say that they didn't, but obviously he wasn't Manny Pacquiao to them. He wasn't De La Hoya to them. And so, and maybe that's what fueled his greatness. Like, hey, why am I not getting the opportunities these guys are getting? I know I'm just as good as these guys. I remember I had Carlos Adames, who was a world champion, that I took him to his first world title. And you look at the sparring session, people can look at that on YouTube. Adames and Terrence Crawford, just electric athlete. I mean, not saying he's not the creme de la creme athletically, but a blue-collar guy. Kind of took the longer road, didn't have the backing, like I said, like a De La Hoya from the PR standpoint in that. But maybe that's what initially enabled him to be great, is saying, hey, you know, got that little chip on the shoulder. And so man has plans, God's a master planner, and obviously it's worked out for him.
And is it cool to see him now, you know, kind of transition? He's like, I want to commentate. He did a fight recently. Like, is it cool to see him in that space?
It's great to see him when you see him in places, because to me, he's one of those guys that don't let the highs get too high or the lows too low. That's the impression I get with him. I don't know how he comes across to other people on TV or social media, but when you're with him in person, he just seems like just a real even keel guy.
Kind of like you.
I hope so.
Right?
I hope so. Like my mother said, you know, don't let that head get too big, boy.
Yeah. I love that you have to keep her right in your mind when you're listening. You can hear it.
Yeah.
No matter where you are, you're like, I can hear it.
Yeah.
For you, if you could describe yourself as just Bob outside of the ring, and then when the switch clicks and you go into the ring, what are those two differences?
For me, I'm a big believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. I think that's what's kept me grounded, kept me out of trouble. But the main thing for me is I just want to work as hard as I possibly can, take care of my family. Take care of my family and change the fighters in and around me so they can help their families. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Leading them to have a great life, to be a great husband, be a great father, because boxing is great. Sure, we want to win. I want to win those world championships, and I'm as driven as anybody. I get up every morning with zest and zeal to be the best that I can be and make them the best that they can be. But I know my real calling is mentoring them in life, because that's the biggest champion you could be in life. That's what's great about boxing. When you get knocked down, you're going to get back up. You're not going to win every time, but as long as you strive, take that next step, and focused, and just keep moving forward. And all those people out there, like I said, you know, don't ever let life get you down. Positive, positive, positive. Don't go in the downward spot of the negativity. Change that mindset. Positive, positive, positive. And we don't know what people are going through in life. And so when you could be an inspiration to anybody, talk to people, give them a word of encouragement, and you'd be surprised how much of a difference that makes in people's lives in general. And I think that's what we're all here to do.
I love that. Just clip that piece right there. Give it to everyone. The world needs this. The world needs peace. No, that's beautiful and very well said. I think lastly, I want to touch on, because we saved the best for last, the ladies of boxing.
Oh.
What the women are doing right now. It is so exciting to watch. I mean, we've got the Amanda Serrano, we got Clarissa Shields, we got Alicia Baumgardner. Like, there's so many names that you can mention in women's boxing right now, and it just continues to grow. How special is that space to watch?
Well, again, not going to be politically correct here. I was one of the first guys. I don't want to see women in boxing.
Really?
I don't want to see
I was
women in
going to ask
boxing.
you why you've
because,
not.
I'm old school, you know
Okay.
what I mean? And you always respect women and open the car door and those types of things. But you ladies out there prove me wrong. And again, sometimes you got to get that humble pie. And then as I'm watching the sport, and you watch a lot of the ladies, you guys can learn a lot of lessons, because the ladies will move their hands and let them go a lot more sometimes than the guys. The guys are sometimes much more safety first than the women. And some of the women's fights are the most exciting fights out there. And so I had these two things going on in my head, because, you always got to respect women. You always got to, so on and so forth. That's the way I was raised. Man, I can't see two women. And then you're watching a little bit of this, and you're watching them, and then you're getting excited. Then you're getting out the couch, and then you realize, hey, you know what? It's a sport just like for us, just like it is for them. It's about competition. It's not about trying to, maliciously hurt anybody. It's whoever the better gladiator is of the two. And women's boxing, thank God for it, because it's been great for the sport. It brings in new fans. It gives guys like me opportunity, because now women are watching the boxing just like the men, and we can all support the sport that we love. And so, again, just like the Shakur thing, sometimes you got to eat humble pie and you got to admit where you're wrong.
Yeah, listen, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, that trilogy,
Unbelievable.
They were going to the death. They're like,
but that's what I'm saying. And then sometimes you look at you come back in the gym with some of the guys, and what's going on here?
Not even trying.
What's going on here?
It's true.
But a lot of times the women's boxing, they're moving their hand. And maybe part of that, the reason that they have the 2-minute rounds, right? And you got to be much more active than in the 3-minute rounds. I don't know, but for whatever reason, the women sometimes just like, wow, they're earning their money. They are earning their money, for sure.
I love that so much. I can't wait. Again, a stacked card of women coming up on the 8th as well.
Think about that. If it wasn't for that, Denier Perot wouldn't be getting his opportunity, or Sebastian Juarez on ESPN. That's how great and how far women's boxing has come, where the women now can carry the card, and you could bring up some of the younger fighters to get their opportunities. And that's what's great about the sport of boxing. That's why I like social media now. That's why I like women in the sport of boxing now. Jake Paul in the sport of boxing now. Everybody to, increase the sport. We got to look at the sport of boxing too, like baseball. Single A, double A, triple A, the major leagues. Mm-hmm. The guys in single A baseball, those are phenomenal players. They probably played Division I. They're right on the cusp of it. Are they going to get to the major leagues? I don't know. We'll see. But that's what's great about boxing now too. You got guys like Jake Paul, as they're trying to ascend to see if they're ever going to get to a world-class level, but they're bringing a lot more eyes and attention into the sport.
Whew, we love it. See, ladies, we know what the hell we're doing. I'm going to stop down for 2 seconds. We don't have to stop the cameras, but I know us working together. Do you want to touch on anything?
I'm actually so happy.
Really? Yeah. Look at that. I did my job. Shit.
I say we just give a little wrap up and something to look forward to. I'm so happy.
Okay, cool. All right, Bob. This is the moment they've all been waiting for. This is how we outro ourselves. Thank you again for letting me come out here. It's been a long time coming trying to make this interview happen, so I'm glad that I came to Vegas in the heat. Bob, we did this. How you feeling?
I'm feeling fantastic. It's always great to be with you, and you're one of the people that made one of my dreams come true, to meet Jim Plunkett, and I'll always be gracious and gratitude towards what you did for me in that. Unbelievable.
No, I appreciate you. Listen, born and raised a Raider fan before working for him, so I understood your happiness. I understood what it meant, and it made me happy to be able to make that magic happen, and Jim enjoyed it so much, so it was a great thing. Thank you so much. I will see you, ESPN. We're going to go there. We're going to get on that card. It's going to be great, and we're going to get that dub. I'm just going to put it out there.
Let's go. Let's go.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.